Pharmacology first class is this. So it's dealing with cholinergic system as well as cholinomimetics. It's a little wide topic, so it's divided into two parts. First one is still the therapeutic use of cholinomimetics, and the other one is the therapeutic use of cholinomimetics. We'll start with the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system, the nervous system is divided into two: central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system is divided into autonomic nervous system as well as somatic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system has sympathetic and parasympathetic parts, something we knew. Uh, Anything for which the neurotransmitter is acetylcholine comes under cholinergic system. So cholinergic system or acetylcholine is the predominant neurotransmitter in parasympathetic system, but it also comes at the motor nerve ending and also even in sympathetic system. For example, at the sweat glands and adrenal medulla, you can see acetylcholine. Cholinergic transmission, as I said before, require acetylcholine. Now, it is a simple note that any sympathetic outflow is from the dorsolumbar region, that is from the T1 vertebra to the L2 or L3 vertebra, whereas parasympathetic system is from sacrocranial region. Cranial nerves which have parasympathetic property are 3, 7, 9 and 10, and from the sacral region we have S2 to S4. Now in cholinergic system, we need to know how acetylcholine is formed. Acetyl combined with CoA and ATP to form acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA combines with choline under the action of choline acetyl transferase to form acetylcholine. Now, certain drugs that you need to know is hemicolinium, which prevents the uptake of choline back into the presynaptic neurons. Vesimicol, it prevents acetylcholine movement to the vesicles. Botulinum toxin prevents the release of acetylcholine from the nerve ending. Then you have something called the black widow spider, and the toxin which is produced by a black widow spider, it promotes the excessive release of acetylcholine. Now, cholinergic receptors are of two types. First one is nicotinic receptor, the other one is muscarinic receptor. Nicotinic receptor contains NN receptor and NM receptor. Muscarinic M1, M2, M3, M4 and M5. Muscarinic receptors are G protein coupled receptors. The agonist of muscarinic receptor is muscarine, whereas the antagonist of muscarinic receptor is atropine. Muscarinic receptor is present in the post-junctional and ganglionic receptor. It inhibits the acetylcholine release and it delays the end-plate EPSP. Muscarinic receptor, you see it in all blood vessels. When muscarinic receptor in the blood vessel is activated, it releases endothelium derived relaxing factor, which leads to the release of nitric oxide, which causes vascular relaxation or dilatation. But when there is an endothelial injury, this endothelium derived relaxing factor EDRF is released and it leads to the activation of M3 receptors of the smooth muscle. Therefore, you can see a reflex vasoconstriction due to endothelial injury. Now you need to know what are selective muscarinic agonist and antagonist. Not something very important, but just to know, M1 is antagonized by paranzapine, M2 by triptramine, M3 by darifenacin. Selective muscarinic agonists are M1 oxotramorin, M2 methacholine, M3 bethanicol. Oxotramorin and methacholine, you're not using it therapeutically because they have very wide range of side effects, a lot of side effects. Now, as I said before, there are 5 muscarinic receptors: M1, M2, M3, M4 and M5. You need to know the location of these muscarinic receptors. M1 is located in the gastric glands, autonomic ganglia and CNS. M2 is present in heart. M3 is present in smooth muscle, endocrine glands, endothelial cells. M4 and M5 is present in CNS. Now what you need to know is M1 and M3. They act by IP3 DAG system. When IP3 DAG system is activated, what will happen? It will lead to increased secretion. When present in CNS, it leads to increased learning and increased memory. However, M2 receptor, it acts by decreasing the cyclic AMP level in the cell. When cyclic AMP level in the cell decreases, M3, M2 as well as M4, all the even numbers by decreasing the cyclic AMP level. When cyclic AMP level is decreased within the cell, there is potassium efflux. Potassium channels open. When potassium channels open, potassium efflux happen and there is hyperpolarization. When there is hyperpolarization, it is more difficult to cause an action potential. Therefore, what happens? There is depression of SA node, depression of AV node, and M2, as it is present in the heart, it decreases the heart rate and it leads to bradycardia. Next is nicotinic receptor. This is very important. Nicotinic receptor selective agonist is nicotine and selective antagonist is D-tubocuranin or hexamethonium. Nicotinic receptors, unlike muscarinic receptors, these are ligand-gated receptors. So when the ligand-gated receptors are activated, calcium cations enter and there is depolarization and action potential. Whereas muscarinic receptors were G protein coupled receptors, in that M1 and M3 are IP3 DAG and M2 and M4 are cyclic AMP. Selective antagonist of nicotinic receptor, NM receptor is antagonized by D-tubocuranin and NN receptor is antagonized by hexamethonium. NM receptor we know is present in the neuromuscular junction. NN receptor is present in autonomic ganglia and adrenal medulla. Selective agonist of NN receptor and NM receptor. For NM receptor it is PTMA. For NN receptor it is DMPP. Now we are going to look at cholinergic agents or cholinergic agents, or you can even say parasympathomimetic, because cholinergic acetylcholine is the predominant neurotransmitter of the parasympathetic system. Cholinergic agonist, they are divided into two: directly acting and indirectly acting. Directly acting can be two types: cholinesterase and alkaloids. Cholinesterase, you have acetylcholine, bethanechol, carbachol. Alkaloids can be pilocarpine and muscarine. Indirectly acting is anticholinesterases, which we'll be discussing. There are two types: reversible and irreversible. Reversible are carbamates, which include physostigmine, neostigmine, pyridostigmine, entrophonium. Irreversible are organophosphorus compounds. This is the distribution of muscarinic receptor. M1 receptor is present in, just remember, GAC. So gastric glands, autonomic ganglia and CNS. M2 is always in heart and beta 1 is also in heart. M3 is present in C. That's smooth muscle, exocrine glands and endothelial cells. M4 and M5 is present in CNS. Nicotinic receptor distribution: NN receptor in autonomic ganglia and adrenal medulla, NM receptor in muscular junction, neuromuscular junction. This is why I said before, when endothelium is damaged, acetylcholine, it travels to the vascular smooth muscle. It causes activation of the M3 receptors there and causes vasoconstriction. Penile erection is also a result of activation of M3 receptors, which is mediated by acetylcholine. Now we're going to see the actions of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine, it has both muscarinic action and nicotinic action. Muscarinic action, muscarinic receptor, you know, the agonist is muscarine and antagonist is atropine. In the heart, you have M2 receptor. When M2 receptor is activated, as I said before, cyclic AMP system is activated, so heart rate decreases, you have bradycardia. AV conduction decreases, so you have negative chronotropic, inotropic and dromotropic effect. In blood vessels, M3 receptors are present If it is acting on the endothelium, endothelial derived relaxing factor is secreted, which leads to secretion of nitric oxide, vasodilation occurs. In smooth muscle, it is M3 receptor. So what happens? IP3DAG system happens, come into place. So in GI, increased tone, increased GI secretion, increased peristaltic movement and seen. In bladder, you see micturition. In bronchi, M3 receptors are present, so you can see bronchospasm and tracheobronchial secretion increases, and therefore it is contraindicated in asthma patients. In exocrine glands, secretion increases. On eye, on topical application of acetylcholine on eye has no effect. Okay, but if you are giving acetylcholine IV, or if you are giving pilocarpine or physostigmine, you can see the following effects. You have M3 receptors there on the contract, so which leads to the contraction of sphincter pupillae muscle. So you see pupillary contraction, which is also called as myiasis. So when there is pupillary contraction or contraction of sphincter pupillary muscles, the trabecular meshwork opens up around the canal of Schlemm. So what happens? The aqueous humor is drained. So you can see a decrease in intraocular pressure, and therefore you give pilocarpine or physostigmine. No, not physostigmine actually. You give pilocarpine for patients with glaucoma. Then ciliary muscle contraction leads to the relaxation of the suspensory ligament. So you have bulging of the lens. Vision is fixed to near distance. Something very logical. Next is nicotinic action. In order to see a nicotinic action after injecting acetylcholine, you need a very large dose of acetylcholine. So what you do is, you just give atropine. Atropine blocks all the muscarinic receptors, and all you have open is nicotinic. So you can see the action of nicotinic agents. In autonomic ganglia, it activates both sympathetic as well as parasympathetic. So what will happen? You see tachycardia, increase in BP, etc. Next, in skeletal muscle, increased dose. When there is increased dose, initially you can see twitching and fasciculation. All of this happen because this ghost sits in one receptor, and when there is nothing to degrade it, or when the amount of acetylcholine is very high, it switches to the next receptor and goes on like that, which is the reason why you have twitching and fasciculation. And when there is even more of it, it leads to paralysis due to hyperpolarization, due to prolonged depolarization of neuromuscular junction. In CNS, it doesn't have any effect as it does not cross the blood-brain barrier. Now we are going to see the drugs one by one. Here we had the classification of the cholinergic system, cholinergic agonist. There we are discussing, there under cholinesters we saw something called bethanechol. So what are you going to see? Bethanechol. Bethanechol, as we've discussed earlier, is a selective M3 agonist. So you see, especially in the GI tract and urinary bladder. Bethanechol, it does not have any nicotinic action. So what you do is, also it's used in case of post-operative urinary retention and paralytic ileus. Its dose is 10 to 40 milligram oral, 2.5 to 5 milligram subcutaneous. You can get it as Urotonin or Bethanechol 25 mg tablets. That's okay. Now the other drug that you saw is Carbachol. Except acetylcholine, carbachol and bethanechol are resistant to pseudocholinesterase and true cholinesterase. Bethanechol does not have nicotinic action, but carbachol has both nicotinic as well as muscarinic action. Carbachol, you use it in case of glaucoma. Bethanechol, as I said before, is used in post-operative urinary retention and paralytic ileus. However, You are not using acetylcholine therapeutically due to its very short duration of action. Now we are looking at cholinomimetic alkaloids. They are pilocarpine, muscarine, and ericolin. Pilocarpine is the first one. Pilocarpine, you're getting it from a plant. It is not a synthetic compound. Telling this because there is sympathetic. Okay, pilocarpine, you're obtaining it from Pilocarpus plant. It is a tertiary amine. It has muscarinic as well as nicotinic effect. However, it has predominant muscarinic effect. Small dose, it causes bradycardia due to its muscarinic effect, but if you are giving it in a higher dose, it leads to tachycardia due to ganglionic stimulation and increased BP. Now, when you're looking at the uses of pilocarpine is used in the treatment of open angle glaucoma, acute congestive glaucoma. It is used topically. So what happens when you're using pilocarpine? There is pupillary constriction. So there is miosis. When there is true pupillary constriction, the trabecular meshwork opens up. So increased drainage of the fluid in the anterior chamber, that is aqueous humor, is drained out. So this its effect lasts for 4 to 8 hours. You're using 0.5 to 4% of pilocarpine. It is used alternatively with midriatic to break the adhesion between the iris and the lens. It is used to reverse pupillary dilation, and pilocarpine is used as a drug which induces salivary secretion. So the adverse effect of pilocarpine is salivation, diarrhea, sweating, bradycardia, bronchospasm, etc. Next is muscarin. Muscarin is derived from the is a major content of a poisonous mushroom, which is Amanita muscarina or Inocybe. Uh, then this mushroom poisoning, we just have a look at mushroom poisoning. Three types of mushroom poisoning is there: a rapid onset, hallucinogenic, and delayed onset. First one is caused by Inocybe. Second one is by Amanita muscarina, and third one is by Amanita phallidoides. First one is having basically all muscarinic effect, and it responds to treatment by atropine. The second one is caused by Amanita muscaria. Due to its predominant central effect, atropine is contraindicated. The third one is delayed onset. Uh, it results in gastroenteritis, hepatic and renal damage, and it does not respond to hepatin, and therefore it was treated with thiotic acid. And basically, for all mushroom poisoning, you give supportive treatment. Next one is anticholinesterase. Acetylcholine is present in the synapse. When it is present in the synapse, an enzyme called anticholinesterase is also present along with it. This cholinesterase, it leaves the acetylcholine molecule to acetate and choline, and acetate is taken up by the presynaptic membrane. അപ്പോൾ ഈ അസറ്റൈൽ ആൻഡ് കോളിനെസ്ട്രേസിന് രണ്ട് ആംസ് ഉണ്ട്. അതിന് ഒരു ആനിയോണിക് സൈറ്റുണ്ട്, ഒരു എസ്ട്രിക് സൈറ്റുണ്ട്. ഈ ആൻറ്റി കോളിനെസ്ട്രേസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സാധനങ്ങൾ അത് ഒന്നെങ്കിൽ ആനിയോണിക് സൈറ്റിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എസ്ട്രിക് സൈറ്റിൽ, അതല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ രണ്ടിലും കൂടി ബൈൻഡ് ചെയ്യും. And therefore it prevents the binding of acetylcholine to cholinesterase and increases the concentration of acetylcholine in the synapse. Anticholinesterases are divided into two types: reversible and irreversible. Reversible anticholinesterases are physostigmine, neostigmine, pyridostigmine, entrophonium, galantamine, rivastigmine, and donpril. All of this come under the group carbamates. These carbamates, they bind to both anionic and esteric site of the cholinesterase. Except entrophonium. Entrophonium, it does not bind to both, but it binds only to anionic site. Next one is irreversible anticholinesterase. Irreversible anticholinesterase, which you need to remember organophosphorus compounds. Among those anticholinesterases, there are some which are lipid soluble, some which are lipid insoluble. Physostigmine and organophosphorus compounds are lipid soluble. Rest all are lipid insoluble. Entrophonium, which was discussed before, binds only to the anionic site. It is shown in this diagram here, and its duration of action is short, 8 to 10 minutes. All the other carbamates it bind to both anionic and esteric side, shown in the diagram on the bottom left side. Next one is organophosphorus compounds which bind to the exteric site. Here the difference is it is not an anionic bond. It is a covalent bond, and therefore hydrolysis does not take place easily. It is a very slow reaction there, and therefore it is an irreversible anticholinesterase organophosphorus compounds. Now, as I said before, physostigmine and organophosphorus compounds are lipid-soluble agents. Lipid-soluble agents, they have muscarinic effect and CNS effects. So they go and stimulate the ganglia by the action, but their action on the skeletal muscle is very less. And those for insoluble, lipid insoluble agents like neostigmine and quaternary ammonium compounds, they produce lot of skeletal effects. Now we'll go to these drugs one by one. Physostigmine is lipid soluble. It is obtained from the plant Physostigma venenosum. Its uses are it is used in the treatment of glaucoma. Basically, it is an anticholinesterase, so it increases the concentration of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine acts on the M3 receptor. It leads to meiosis, and therefore it leads to increased drainage, and therefore you can use it in the treatment of glaucoma. But however, you don't therapeutically prescribe it often because a chronic use of physostigmine topically in the eye can lead to cataract. Therefore, it is very rarely used. Now, physostigmine, you give it in case of atropine poisoning or in severe anti-muscarinic poisoning. Because physostigmine, as it is lipid soluble, has both central and peripheral effects. It is given IV. Neostigmine is given orally, intramuscularly, intravenously, or subcutaneously. It is not obtained from a plant like physostigmine. Neostigmine is a synthetic compound, lipid insoluble. It does not cross the blood-brain barrier. Therefore, it is preferred more in myasthenia gravis. In myasthenia gravis, you give neostigmine because it resembles acetylcholine in its structure. Remember, neostigmine resembles acetylcholine in its structure. It goes and binds to the receptors, NM receptors. In myasthenia gravis, NM receptors are affected, and therefore it stimulates it. Therefore, to treat myasthenia gravis, you give neostigmine. Coming to pharmacokinetics. Physostigmine is rapidly absorbed from the GI tract and parenteral sites. It is applied to eye tropically. It crosses the blood-brain barrier and it is disposed after hydrolysis by the cholinesterase. When it comes to neostigmine and conkyers, they are poorly absorbed orally. Oral dose should be 10 to 20 to 30 times higher than parenteral dose. They do not effectively penetrate the cornea, therefore it is not used in the treatment of glaucoma. It does not cross the blood-brain barrier. They are partially hydrolyzed and partially excreted, unchanged to neuron. Next one is organophosphorus compounds. These are absorbed from all sites, which includes even the intact skin and lungs. They are hydrolyzed as well as oxidized in the body, and little is excreted unchanged. Next is pyridostigmine. Pyridostigmine is just as the same as neostigmine, but its duration of action is very long. ദിവസം 2 പ്രാവശ്യം കൊടുത്താൽ മതി. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് മോർ പ്രിഫേർഡ് ഇൻ മൈസ്റ്റേനിയ ഗ്രേവിസ്. ഇത് കുറച്ചും കൂടി പൊട്ടൻ്റ് ആണ്, അപ്പോൾ സൈഡ് ഇഫക്ട്സും കുറച്ചുകൂടെ കുറക്കാം. ഡിസ്റ്റോണിൻ, മൈസ്റ്റൻ 60 milligram ടാബ്സ് ഒക്കെ കിട്ടും. അതാണ് എൻട്രോഫോണിയം. എൻട്രോഫോണിയം നേരത്തെ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്തു. ഇറ്റ് ബൈൻഡ്സ് ഓൺലി ടു ദി anionic site. ഇതിൻ്റെ ഡ്യൂറേഷൻ ഓഫ് ഇതിൻ്റെ ഓൺസെറ്റ് ഇസ് വെരി റാപ്പിഡ്. ഡ്യൂറേഷൻ ഓഫ് ആക്ഷൻ ഇസ് also short. Therefore, it is preferred in case of curare poisoning because its onset of action is very fast. and it is also used to diagnose myasthenia gravis. Therapeutic use of reversible anticholinesterase പഠിക്കുമ്പോൾ പഠിപ്പിക്കും. Now, different myasthenia, and it is also used to differentiate myasthenia crisis from cholinergic crisis.